What are directors looking for?
You mean besides a pulse?
I have a shadow on my shoulder.
And I have never been arrested for grand larceny. And
this
this
is
is Theater
Theater
Babble.
Babble.
I'm like, that implies that
You've
you've
been arrested.
All right. It also implies that you have been arrested for crap. There seems to be an aura of mystery surrounding a director's vision and what goes into the casting process. Like there's some sort of magical formula that actors need to tap into in order to land the role.
The truth of the matter is, while directors go into the casting process with some preconceived notions, we really are looking to the actors themselves to show us what we need. We want to be surprised. We want to be entertained. There are dozens or even hundreds of tangible and intangible elements that the director is attempting to balance when casting. Many of these components are outside of the actor's control and difficult for the director to identify. They just get a feeling of who they think is best suited for each role.
Directors are looking for talent, but also chemistry and intelligence and training and communication and looks and style and presence and a myriad of other elements which all go into the casting process. If you, the actor, are spending way too much time and energy trying to figure out what the director is looking for, you might miss the most important aspect of auditioning, which is showing us the best version of you. So Scott, what are directors looking for?
Well, Joren, I'm glad you asked. So today we're talking about what directors are looking for when they cast a show, which is a really interesting question. Actors ask me this all the time, like, what should I do? What should I prepare? What do you want to see? Things like that. And I think that the thing that's important for actors to realize is that we don't necessarily know what we want. So we're casting a show, right? So you and I are both holding auditions for our own shows, and we've read the play, we've done our research, we've got our character descriptions and all that sort of stuff. What are we looking for the actors to bring? What do we want?
Oh,
See up on stage.
It's different for every show and for every character. Every director kind of has an idea for what they want for the character, and you're there to kind of see what your options are. Obviously, that's the casting process, right? That's what the audition process is, as simple as, right? Is I'm here to see what my options for this character are. And you have a sense in your head, but also the actors have a sense, and you kind of are there to see, like, it's, let me pick to try and create the best show. Because at the end of the day, that's the director's goal, is to figure out the best cast to create the best version of the show that he can put on, right?
And so in doing that, we've got all of these different things that we're trying to balance to get to that point. So there's the idea of, I want X character to look like this, and this character needs to have such and such an accent or these skills or whatever, but there's so much more to it than just that. We're looking at like chemistry, we're looking at enthusiasm, we're looking at experience, we're looking at all of these things. We're gauging how do they interact with us when they come into the space. And
there's a lot more than just like, oh, did they do a good job acting the part that they brought in? Something that I think could work for the play as I'm designing it. And it also could be like, do they have a chemistry with the stage, right? Like, what's their gravitas like, and therefore the answer is not technical prowess, or the answer is not to be very loud in your audition, right? There's not one answer to the how do I get cast for a role.
It's not only the technical prowess or whatever. There's all of these different components.
Yeah, it's not, there's never one thing that is going to get you the role, right? Each of those individual skills gets you points. I talk a lot about value. It's like, so an actor has value to your play, and the different skills that an actor brings provides, essentially adds to their total value as an actor for the specific play, not as a person, as an actor for the play.
Because they have no value as a person.
Yeah, nobody has any value as a person to me, right? We're all just atoms spinning around on a ball of dirt. So the what you bring to the play changes based on a just infinite number of factors. Like if you're going for a play that has a really large cast and you are obviously belligerent and you are not causing other people to feel okay in the space, right? It's like, that's going to take away from the play, even if you are the world's best actor, right? Who's the world's best actor? Is it still Tom Cruise? Was it ever Tom Cruise?
If you ask Tom Cruise.
If you ask Tom Cruise, right? The worst part about being Tom Cruise is you don't get to experience living in a world with Tom Cruise. So I pity Tom Cruise.
So talking about like a score. So here's the, to kind of back it up.
Yeah.
I think, okay, so I'm an actor, you're the director, right? And
Yeah.
I'm trying to prep for my audition, and I'm working on my monologue, and I'm picking out my audition outfit and editing my resume, doing all of those sorts of things, and I'm
combing your hair.
Right, combing all of my hair. And then my work is, traditionally, as an actor, we're kind of like, we're focusing in, right? We're honing in on the character or characters that we think we might potentially be cast. So already at that point, what we're trying to do is we're trying to say, what does the director think? Right? Because we're trying to choose which roles, okay, if I want to get cast, I should hedge my bets for the characters that I'm right for.
Yeah.
Right? But you're automatically then, you're cutting out, you're devaluing what you bring to the audition process or what you bring to the stage.
Yeah.
By immediately trying to figure out what the director wants. And yeah, as directors, we go into an audition, we have preconceived notions. I don't know about you, but a lot of times, like when I'm reading a script, especially for the first time, I kind of mentally insert friends who are actors into different roles. It helps me keep track of who's who and stuff like that. So then when I go into an audition, I'm already thinking, oh, well, Joe Bob is, he's perfect for this, and I see he's coming to audition, so great.
Yeah, boom.
Right? That's done.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that that's what we want.
Yeah. No, it's definitely, almost all of my best casting choices have been not my first choice when I originally went to go cast the play, because somebody else showed up and they presented a opportunity that I hadn't yet beheld in my mind. Like, so somebody took they're like, oh, I'm auditioning for the role of X, Y, or Z, and that I was like, okay, well, I'm imagining that role is X. I'm not gonna use too many variables. Too much algebra for too much algebra for the theater crowd.
Right.
Right. So they're auditioning for some role, and I imagine that role, let's say, as aggressive and charismatic, and they take it, and it's a very somber performance, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I have a new understanding of the potential of that character, and it allows me to kind of imagine what the show would be like with this version of that character. And sometimes it essentially expands my understanding as a director, right? And there's a conversation that happens between the actor and the director that causes a growth of the production as a whole, right? Especially if you have a really competent, good director who is able to kind of read into that conversation. That's as an actor, you're not really trying to fit the description of the role, because that's just what they've already brought. They've already had someone in mind for that, and you have to be the best at that exact fit of the role. That's part of the problem. Is like, let's say you're up against 10 other actors, right? And you're going for the role of a charismatic lead, and you go in and you do the thing as expected of you. Unless you are the best of the 10, right? You're not getting the role if everybody does it exactly the same, right?
And I think that's the key in plays, especially if somebody kills it. Like somebody kills it on Broadway, or there's a movie version, or something like that. Like if you're auditioning for Willy Wonka, everybody's going to go in as, I guess they would choose Gene Wilder or Johnny Depp, is what they're thinking of.
Yeah.
So then you get a room full of actors that are doing the exact same thing. There's no longer a competition for the director. We might as well pull a name out of the hat at that point.
Yeah.
Because they're all the same.
Yeah.
But
and they
you come
probably
in-
are not as good as Gene Wilder or Johnny Depp in
Right.
the role.
Right.
And so you have to just be like, well, who did the best imitation, right? And so you're getting a copy of a copy, and then
There's no creation there.
yes, exactly, right? And so
Just regurgitating the same thing.
yeah, and then you may not be as good at being loud, or you may not have as much eloquence to your words, but you might bring an emotionality or an experience to a role that is different and takes it in a different direction. And if you just cut that part off of yourself, it's like, I'm not going to be this person so that I can fit their version of it, their preconceived notion, you've handicapped yourself by not presenting your real self. You're presenting some version that you are expecting to sell.
Right. So it's kind of like if you go to a buffet, right? You go to an old person buffet.
Yeah.
And if you go up to the buffet and all of your protein choices are roast beef.
Yeah.
You just have, here's roast beef, or there's roast beef, or you can also have roast beef. Then you're there and you're like, well, they're all the same.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I don't care. It doesn't matter to me which one I take.
Yeah.
Because they're all the same. But if you've got all of these roast beefs and then all of a sudden you come up to grilled salmon or something that you weren't expecting, then you're, well, I'll take that because it's new.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to change the sides that I chose because I'm having grilled salmon. It really does. I mean, that's kind of getting ridiculous for an analogy, but that really is what happens when we cast. Somebody in the casting process almost always like lights a spark for me. And then I end up casting the rest of the show because of that spark. And my preconceived notions may go out the door, or I may just have to switch them or adjust them. Or I might all of a sudden realize, oh, in order for this character, this actor to be in here, I need to cast the whole show older or younger or in a different era or whatever it might be. It informs a new choice for me in order to have that actor in the role.
Yeah. And that's something that you can't control. Imagine if you go up to audition for a play and a director has already selected a specific role for a specific person that has now made your type or your role or whatever, some je ne sais quoi about you that is all of a sudden you have less value to the play because it's like, you know what, you don't fit the age range, right? You can't be the son of this person because you're not the same ethnicity, right? All of a sudden that's something you can't control, right? And so if you're like, oh, well, how do I be the most, how do I get cast as the son, right? Like your options are like, you can't change your ethnicity, right? You can't change your age range. And so it becomes like you trying to fit that role becomes futile. And so it's not your best game plan, and it's not what will best for the show. You won't have the best experience if you're doing that, right? So the goal instead would be to present yourself in the absolute best capacity that you are. So it's
and
like
force the director to rethink the rest of what they're working on. I really like one of the things that you said. It was just a phrase you threw out there, Joren, but it really kind of encapsulates this idea of directors we think we know what we want going into an audition, but we don't really once it, when you put it into practice.
Yeah.
Because, as you said, somebody else shows up.
Yeah.
So somebody you were not expecting, or even, I can think of an instance. I was casting a play and I knew really clearly who I wanted for, what I wanted them to be like, these different characters. It was a murder mystery. I wanted them to fit into these different, tropes of characters. And a guy I had worked with several times before told me he was going to come and audition. And I thought, great, it'll be great to see him. But in my mind, I was thinking he doesn't fit any of the characters.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of going into the auditions. Directors, believe it or not, you guys, directors, we dread having to say no.
Yeah.
That's like the hardest part of our job is when we have to tell the people that we didn't cast them. So I'm already thinking about this from this friend. He comes in and he nails the audition. He nailed the audition. And so because of that, I rethought I think there was 8 other characters. I rethought all of my other 8 characters. Because I knew at that moment, I have to have him in this show.
Exactly.
But I didn't know that going in. He showed me through his audition by bringing the best version of himself to that audition process.
Yeah.
So when you're going in, try to think about, that's the focus for you as actors is not what is the director looking for. Walk in and show us that you're what we're looking for. I think It's kind of like a summary statement.
Yeah.
Everything else we say, I think, kind of goes into
Yeah,
that.
right. You can stop watching now.
Right.
You just click on it.
Yeah, click like and subscribe.
Yeah. Right, ring that doorbell, spin the
Right.
dingo.
Spin the wheel, win a prize.
Yeah, but that's really it. See, we want to see you at your best, right? But you at your best, obviously, there's a lot that goes into that, right? So it's not saying, don't prepare for the audition. There's nothing you can do. It's hopeless, right? Just show up and just babble about theater for a little bit, and you will get cast if you happen to be right, is not the takeaway from it. The takeaway is that you need to sharpen yourself as an actor in every capacity that you're able, and then take the parts of you that are the most brilliant parts, right?
The most unique. I mean, what makes you you?
Exactly, right? And
Faults and all. What you may see as your fault, a director, we might look at that as being, that's the reason to cast you.
Yeah. So you wanna sharpen yourself as an actor, and there are skills and things you can work on that improve your value to any play, and then if you can essentially increase your overall value everywhere, that's really, you're looking to get cast more often, right? You're trying to bump your stats, right? Your baseball card for as an actor, right? That's the thing to take away, is not how do I manipulate the casting process, right? It's how do I improve at the things that I'm great at, and maybe shore up some of the things that I'm not that great at to improve your overall value as an actor.
And I think also it goes into what the actor's job is once they are cast. So go into the audition with, how can I improve this show?
Yeah.
Not just thinking about the audition, but think about, okay, so I have this skill set, or I have this look, or I have this ability. How can I lend that to every play that I go out for, so that the show becomes better because of my participation? And approach all of your auditions that way, rather than trying to worry about what we're looking for. But there are some things that we are looking for. I mean, we do look at, if you're supposed to bring a memorized monologue and you're not memorized, we do see those things, right? It doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to be cast, but we see those things.
Yeah.
So it's important that when you're working on the best version of yourself, that you do kind of keep in mind these sort of skills or traits or other things that directors do kind of look at. We do have a scorecard that we run, whether it's an actual scorecard on the page.
Yeah, I have a literal scorecard.
I work a lot of times when I work with music directors and choreographers, they have a literal scorecard that they're rating people as they go through.
Yeah.
So there are some things in there to be aware of, and I think the basis of that is that when you go into your audition, you're prepared, which means that you've shown up in time, you've shown up early enough to take care of any paperwork or registration or anything like that needs to be done, giving yourself enough time to find parking, so that you're not just zipping into your audition at the last second. You're prepared, you know your monologue, you practiced your slate, all of those things. We'll be doing an audition episode later on that will go into more of these, so if you don't recognize any of these terms, we'll come back to them. But you've done the work.
Yeah.
You're prepared when you walk into the space to show us the best version of yourself.
Yeah, that almost, if value is one word that I use to what do you bring to the play, there are sometimes you bring debt to the play, you know, and not preparedness is a mark against you often for a director. They go, okay, well, this person is not prepared. Even if they're fantastic at X, Y, or Z, they're great on stage, they have a wonderful charisma, it's they fit the role exactly, but they were not really that prepared for the audition. That might put them below the second place as far as technical proficiency in the role that came, and they just knocked it out of the park as far as
even if they did the same monologue and had the same look.
Yeah, it's the same monologue, same look, but it was just slightly worse than the person who came in sloppily and all that kind of stuff, and then they just happened to be just naturally super talented. They'd be like, you know what, it's going to be easier for me to work with the prepared person, and that might edge them in front of that other person. And so there's a lot of those skills. Is there any in particular that you can think of, things that add or take away value, like specifics for an actor?
Absolutely. But I would say, to talk about preparedness though, for me personally, and I don't know if you feel the same way, and that's another thing to keep in mind with this video, every director is different.
Yeah.
And every director is gonna have different priorities, different things they're looking for. For me personally, when we're talking about preparedness, you having your monologue memorized is gonna be like 4th or 5th on the list of preparedness for me. If you have to pull your monologue out and you read it and you still do a great performance even though you're reading it, or you skip a chunk, I am gonna be a lot more forgiving on that than if you run in late and you don't have time to fill out your paperwork. Right? Because you have poor time management skills. Or you say, oh, I didn't know we were supposed to have a monologue. I've had that happen before. So, so there's different things that go into preparedness.
Yeah. I've worked on plays where somebody has come in unprepared and it's like, you don't even get to do your audition. The director says, you know what, I'm not going to work with you, right? They don't even want to see how good you are because it's that much of a detriment. And for me, I'm not like that, right? But preparedness is one of the ones that it's like, that's one that you can there are very specific rules. Show up on time, know the directions that you're supposed to, the instructions for what you're supposed to bring. That's an easy one to get right because those are often written out beforehand.
Check the audition announcement.
Exactly. Check the audition announcement.
But to get back to the question, for me, the most important thing that I look for when an actor comes in is their desire to be there, their passion.
Yeah.
Everything, for me, everything is secondary to your desire to be there. And I have seen actors who come in and audition and it's almost like their parole officer made them come or something. And you feel like they don't want to be there. And it could be because they've had a rotten day or
nervous.
Right. Or maybe they just found out that day that they got cast for something else and they know they're not going to accept something, but they wanted to go through with the audition for whatever reason. But show up and want to be there and want to be in that show. So don't come in and say, with an attitude that I just want to get cast, I just want to work. You want to come in with the attitude that I really want to be in this particular show because I love this show, or the director is somebody I've worked with before and I really enjoy it, or the company is a company that I love working for. But come in because you want to be a part of that production specifically and show that geeky passion.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, you're let it come out. Let the exuberance come out of being able to do the work.
As a director, for me, the whole directing, acting, being in a play, producing a play is a absolutely wonderful experience. And if I feel like you're going to ruin that for my cast, I'm not going to cast you. I'm not going to jeopardize the entire play for you because you're a talented asshole.
We can't accomplish anything else during the rehearsal process if we're always putting out fires.
Yes. One of my highest value adds for me as a director is comedic and dramatic instinct. If I can feel that you understand why something is funny, right? Like the understanding of the humor. Or even if it's not even like you understand it, but it's just so natural to you that it just happens. Right. That
you can feel the timing, you can feel the double takes or whatever it needs to happen.
Right. Like it's not even like, it's not anything, one specific thing. It's just like a low grade, just like comedy radiation coming out of you. Quick tips for comedy or comedic or dramatic instinct. Quick tips for dramatic or comedic instinct. Lots of syllables.
Sounds like another video for us.
Exactly. The quick tip on that one for comedic instinct, right, is to practice comedy, is to do it, right? Like go do improv, then go write a stand-up set and practice it. And because you're only funny in your head. You can be very funny in your head, but until you tell it to somebody else, right, you can't really understand how it hits the air and how it hits other people's ears until you've kind of put it through the top fire, right? It's passed the test. Instinct piece of it, right, as opposed to a specific training or skill, is essentially, it's like the base. It's all of the skills combined at their most lowest level together is kind of how you get those instincts to just know what's right, even if you're in a situation that's brand new.
Right. And I think that the instinct really comes from, as an actor, understanding the text.
Yes.
And understanding the situation.
Yeah.
So if you, and this particularly in dramatic, if I get a feeling that somebody doesn't have a dramatic instinct, it usually means that they don't understand what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Or they don't understand the weight of the situation.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
So understand, I think an understanding of the text is really, really high. I would say for me, you've got attitude, you've got passion is number one. Number two is understanding the text. Mm-hmm. Because you can't put on a show, an engaging show, if the actors don't understand everything that they're saying and why they're saying it.
Yeah, and honestly, I think understanding the text or the material is the root. It's a more elegant way to say all the things that I just said, right? It is the root of your instincts, right?
Right.
The root of your instincts comes from understanding the material, right? So if you understand why something is funny, right, you will deliver it in a way that's funny because you have that understanding. Same thing with dramatic. Like if you understand why this is important, right, you will add the pause in the right spot.
Why it's sad or
right?
why it makes you angry.
Yeah, you will move correctly because you know why, like all the way down to the bones and to the marrow of the script and the narrative. Is there anything else that you have that you know?
I would say,
values?
so we're talking, so those first two values, they are very much about what you bring to the table. You bring the passion, you bring the understanding of the text that you chose. Yeah. You picked this out, so you better know what it means, right? The next one is, for me, finish out the top three, right? Yeah. This is the hat trick of skills, is how an actor processes direction.
Oh, yes.
And communication skills, which it is about what you bring to the table, because if you do your audition, right, and it's a killer audition, you do a great job with it, and I say, could you do it again, but this time do this thing? That's about what you're, open. Yeah, that's what you're bringing also, is you're bringing your willingness to explore. You're bringing your willingness. A lot of times, whether it's conscious or not, I think when an actor struggles with processing direction, it's because they don't buy into it. They don't believe in the direction. And so because I know I've done it before, we push back against that direction. Yeah. Rather than just taking it in and saying, okay, when I give you that direction, when I ask you to do it again, but do this other thing to it, I'm not looking for you to nail that new thing. I'm looking for you to hear what I said and then try something that puts it into action. Yeah. That's it. It's not about getting it right. So again, it's about your skill. It's then your interpretation of what I just said. Yeah. You process it, you put it through your filters, your skill sets, whatever it is, and you bring me something new. So how you take direction is critical. Yeah,
that's huge. If I find someone to be undirectable, right, where like they got no directability, like I can't change.
I can't work with this.
Yeah, I can't change their performance. Like that's a part of my role as a director. It's like I'm trying to if I can't get you to adjust, right, then it's hard to use you as an actor. If I can't get you to try it in a different way, or if I can't get you to see what I mean and at least process it, right? Like if you completely deflect all incoming information from me as the director, you become this tool I can't use, and I'm reluctant to use.
Right, then there becomes like this standoffishness almost, even if it's not intentional. Yeah. Because the director, sometimes we get like gun shy. Yeah. We're like, oh, I shouldn't give them a note because it causes them to break down. Or so part of taking direction, is not necessarily about doing the thing, but it's about, again, yourself bringing your skills, your confidence in your abilities as an actor to then say, I have this question about the direction that you gave me because blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Right? It's a communication skill thing. Being able to understand why I've given a direction is important, especially for me. It takes me sometimes I have to say the same thing 3 times for even me to understand it. So that could be a headache for an actor I work with, where it's like, can you do it a little different? And I'm like, what does that mean? Right? What the actor could be frustrated with my version of direction, right? And that's obviously a failure on the director's part. It is not really hypothetical. That is a skill that provides value. If you can understand what I'm saying, that's huge in value, and that it ties into your directability. Is there?
And I think that's why a lot of times directors, it's a perception of directors, but there's also a lot of truth where we have actors that we like to work with.
Yeah.
And we'll recast. I've got a few actors that, given that I have to make a conscious effort not to cast, because in my opinion, I could put them somewhere in every single play I do.
Yeah.
There's a role for them somewhere, and I love working with them. Partially because of that, we've developed like a vocabulary.
Yeah.
We have a communication where
speak your language.
Yeah, we can speak in footnotes almost.
Yeah.
And they know exactly what I'm trying to communicate.
Hey, can you try it in like you know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, no, I'll try it that way. And like nobody said anything, and you've perfectly communicated you want to have them do it in a different way. Like, I totally get that. There's that language develops. If you're an actor and you want to improve your directability, right? Mm-hmm. What do you do? Is there a skill to practice, or is it just a mindfulness thing? What's the key to improving your directability?
One of the things.
Is directability a word? I don't think it's a word.
It's a word now. Directability. It's a new
directability.
Right here. Directability. We'll put it up on the screen.
Somewhere here.
Copyright.
The description right there.
So directability, yes, because I think that in order to be directed efficiently, it does come down to the actor having confidence in their ability. Mm-hmm. So that if I say, can you do the scene again, but do it in a French accent, you have to have faith that you can either do a really good French accent or you can do a really terrible French accent that's going to be equally entertaining, right? So it comes down to your confidence, and the way that you build the confidence is by practicing. So when you're practicing, let's say for the audition, because that's kind of what we started talking about, was what to bring to the audition. Practice your audition monologue 1,000 different ways.
Yeah.
And if you get stuck on what's another way to do this, go to ridiculous. Play the role as a frog. Yeah. Play the role as a Frenchman. Play the role as a spoon, right? But just go into ridiculousness, because what that does is it frees up your brain.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a brainstorming session for your acting.
Yeah. When I have issues with directability for actors, that's my go-to move as a director.
Do something stupid.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we're gonna do this whole next section in gibberish. I want you to say your line. I don't want you to speak English or any other language. This whole section is in gibberish, right? And then I'll do the same take. It's like, still gibberish, but also you're flapping your arms around, right? Like, I want you to loosey-goosey spaghetti arms. And we've taken what could be a very serious moment, and now it's just chaos and nonsense. And then we go back to the scene as it was, right?
And there's new discoveries.
There's new discoveries, and I've now made all of the actors a little bit more pliable, right? Because I've made them do something beyond the expectation of normal. And now it's like, now if I say do it a little bit more loud, right? Well, loud is a lot easier than gibberish with your arms flailing, right? I've by asking for too much and dialing it back, that's a skill. And as an actor, you can prep for that.
So play around with all of your options, even, and Joren said this, I can't stress it enough, even or maybe especially if it doesn't fit the monologue.
Yeah.
Because that will loosen you up to the point that then when the director says, can you do this? You're like, that's easy. You have no idea how many ways I've practiced this monologue, right? And that's tied back to your confidence in your abilities. So again, you're showing us who you are and what you have to offer through taking the direction. Okay, so now I want to talk about something in the casting process that's a little tricky, but it's still about what the actor brings to the process. Okay, so a little bit of content warning on this section because it's talking about appearance. And as much as, when we're talking about appearance, there's an actor's expectation of how appearance fits into casting, and then there's the reality of how appearance fits into it. And they're similar, but they're also extremely different at the same time. Yeah. So when we're going into the casting of a show, we've talked about directors having preconceived notions. And part of that preconceived notion is about the look of the characters, what we think these characters look like.
Yeah.
So we have this idea. That doesn't mean that we're only going to cast actors that fit that look. It means that we have that as a preconceived sort of idea. Your look, you have a little bit of control over in how you present yourself, how you're dressed, is your hair out of your eyes, you know, things like that, so we can see what you're doing. But you also don't have control over certain things. And some things that can make for really unhealthy behaviors in actors, like unhealthy weight control or dieting, exercising, things like that. Dyeing your hair too often where your hair's fried and then you look like me for the rest of your life. Things like that. No. But appearance is important. So I cast a show recently where it was a family unit, and I had a kid audition who was Indian, South Asian, killed it, and I knew that I wanted to cast that person. So for the rest of the family unit, I was looking for people that fit that ethnicity, that would work together. So I couldn't have blonde-haired, blue-eyed parents for this kid. I mean, I could, but then it tells a different story than the story I wanted to be telling with the show. So appearance comes into play that way. There might be, you know, any number of things that happen in a show. If your character is supposed to walk on stilts, or, you know, or do some other sort of acrobatic thing, then the director might have a preconceived notion that they have to be an athletic actor. And so your weight might then come into play in that. There might be a gag during the show where something specific has to happen so that it needs a certain kind of body type. Now, that doesn't mean that all actors have to be skinny and blonde hair and blue eyes, because all of these roles, I am definitely not skinny and blonde hair. There was a time when I had blonde hair, but that was a long time ago. But I can still fit into the cast of most shows. But I have to be aware of the fact that my appearance plays a factor in my casting. It doesn't mean I'm not going to be cast, but my appearance plays a factor in that. So be aware of that as an actor, that your appearance does affect your casting, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything about your appearance that's negative or that is a detriment to what you're doing, how you're trying to be cast, what shows you want to do, any of that sort of stuff. But know that that is a factor. Sometimes, like I cast a production of The Addams Family one time. And in my mind, I wanted to play with shapes. So I wanted all of the main characters, the main Addams Family, to have a different body type than everybody else. So I was looking for tall and skinny and short and fat and really curvy and hunched over and twisted and all of these different shapes, so that I could picture the silhouette of being like cartoon characters. And so when I was casting it, if I got a tall and skinny person, then I could say, well, I don't want another tall and skinny person. I want somebody who's different. So again, it didn't make anybody wrong because of their body type, but it did play a factor in the casting. So recognize that your appearance does and doesn't matter at the exact same time. And it comes back to, I think the key is being who you are, bringing your uniqueness to the role, so that if you're built like me, if you're a big old guy, then you bring that to your audition in such a way that it's a benefit to your performance rather than a hindrance. You show those things off, right? You revel in what makes you uniquely you.
There's a lot of visual medium to the director's, like, that's maybe not the right word.
The visual storytelling.
Visual storytelling, right? And so it's like, you, as a director, you're painting in your head what it looks like, right? You have an idea for the cast, for the structure, for the props, for everything has a visual story in your head. And so you are going to try and find the people that match that story, right?
That can tell that story,
Yeah, exactly like Scott says, like, if you can take what you look like and understand it and kind of now present it as an asset.
So I think that that's key. And when we're talking about appearance, it's, like I said, this is a really touchy subject to talk about in casting. But the reality is that it's part of the casting process, and it's important for actors to recognize that, but to try and recognize it and embrace it in a way that empowers you as an actor rather than feeling like a detriment. But again, use that, bring that to your performance. So me being a big guy, an older guy, if I want to play Peter Pan, then when I go to my audition, I'm going to nail my Peter Pan audition and let the director figure out how they're going to get me up in the air, right? That's their problem. That's my problem. My job is to be the best actor for the role.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So still commit yourself, even if you think that you're not the right body type or the right height or your hair's the wrong color or whatever it is, you can still be the best person for that role because of what you bring to your audition.
Yeah. And that's something like, don't cut yourself from the cast before you've gone to the audition.
I think that's crucial, and I think a lot of actors do that.
Yeah, it's like if you go, well, I'm not lead material, right? Mm-hmm. It's like whatever. It's like I just don't look like a lead. I can't act like a lead. I'm not lead material. Then if you never go out for those roles, you will never be the lead in the play because you have never presented yourself the opportunity. But there will be a situation, if you go to enough auditions, where the director is looking for someone just like you for that role, right? Because maybe you're not the lead you imagine, right? But you're the lead the director imagines for the role, or not even when he imagines it, he sees you at the audition and goes, you know what, I can use exactly that. This is the person I need for this role. And all of a sudden you're in a role you never thought you really would have because you dared to try and
dare to dream.
Yeah, you gotta just go for it sometimes. It'll grow you as an actor. And then your value grows, right? Like it's like you get cast for a role that was maybe a little bit outside your type, and then you practice, you nail it, you have an amazing show, and then it's like, you know what, this is something I can do. And you go out you have future auditions with more experience, with better understanding. All of those are the things that we talked about have been improved because you have grown as an actor.
And I think there's one other thing that I'd like to talk about when
Juggling.
it comes to right.
I can see you have special skills highlighted.
Yeah, special skills. So I would venture to say every one of us has special skills. You may not think that your special skill is a special skill, but if you can play piano, if you can juggle, if you can do acrobatics, if you can tell a great knock-knock joke, if you can cry on command, you know what, whatever special skills you have, whatever uniqueness, again, this is about the best version of you. I'm not saying juggle for the first time at your audition.
Definitely not.
If you have this as a skill that you know you can nail, try to find a way that you can incorporate that into your auditions because it, again, ups your value. It increases your value. And it may not be something that gets used in that show, but it's something that then the director has in the back of their mind. This person has this set of skills, these abilities. And sometimes directors will change what's going on in the show because of that, because they want to incorporate, well, you're a fire breather and it was awesome, so I want you to do fire breathing in every performance.
Exactly.
Right? So don't underestimate what you can bring to the table aside from your acting ability and aside from a great personality and your passion. What else do you have that you can put into that? Explore your special skills. Don't deny them. But again, I would encourage you not to do something at the audition that isn't you at your best.
Yeah, there are some things, like there are skills where it's like, if you're reaching and you don't nail it, you've not added value, you've added the debt.
Right.
Like you've taken it away. Like if you like you might be right in that you're like, oh, if I juggle while this monologue is happening, it will make it way great. And if you go there and you fail to juggle at the monologue, right, you've taken away all of the other value of that monologue. You could have just done it without juggling.
Right.
And that's not to say, in this hypothetical, mysterious, magical monologue, that juggling wouldn't have actually made it better if you did it right, but you have to know you're going to do it right. And that kind of comes down to preparedness, right? Like,
And find a way to where it's applicable to the monologue in some way.
yeah.
So it fits. I had one of the best auditions I've ever watched when I was directing a show. A guy did a monologue from Children of a Lesser God, which is a play about a deaf woman, essentially, and a love story. And he is a sign interpreter. And so as he was performing the monologue, performing the words, he was also signing along with it. And I cast him because it was his special skill that he's phenomenal at. He does it professionally, the sign interpreting, but it also fit the character and it fit the part so well. And I absolutely wasn't expecting to see anything like that in the auditions.
Yeah.
I was completely enthralled by his intelligence to assess himself and then to find a way to incorporate that into the audition without it feeling gimmicky.
Yeah.
It was still honest.
Yeah. The gimmicky part is an important point. Like, I've had auditions where it's like, why did you do that? Like, I'm trying to understand what the choice
I'm pulled
there
out of
was.
the audition now.
Yeah, it's like, it wasn't wrong, it was just weird. And
Yeah,
then because
confusing.
of that, like, it's like, that pulls me out. You've lost value, not because you really did anything detrimental, but because it was just distracting, right? You've distracted from the other value. And so because of that, I've lost it, right? Because obviously, if I don't see your value, you don't have it to the director, right? Like, doesn't matter if you're fantastic if I can't tell, right?
Yeah.
And so just,
So use your special skills, but use them intelligently. Use them in a way that adds value to your audition. There's other things that are going to come up when you're casting, like your availability, right? If you got two of you, you and your identical twin both audition with the same monologue for the same part, but you're not available on Tuesdays, we're going to cast your twin, right?
Yeah.
So recognize that those things, even if they seem like they're minor, can be the one thing that gives you, on Joren's magical scorecard, you get a 79 instead of an 80.
Yeah.
Just because of that. So there's 1,000 things that go into casting the show that have very little to do with you, which is why you need to focus on you. Really, I can't imagine how many times we've said it in this video, but the best version of you. That's what you need to focus on bringing.
Yeah.
So find a monologue that shows off the best version of you. Wear clothes that show off the best version of you. I don't mean something sexy. I mean the best version of you.
Maybe
whatever
sexy
that
is
is.
the best version of
Right.
you.
Whatever you feel like is the best version of you.
Yeah.
Your headshot, your resume, all of those things should reflect your best self.
Yeah.
And that's what you should be working on when you're coming into an audition. And then focusing on your skills, what you bring to it as you're going through the rehearsal process. Because the other part of auditioning is, as an actor, you're always auditioning. Even once you're cast, the director is looking at you and saying, there's this show that I've really been wanting to do, and this person would be great for that show.
It happens in reverse too. You have something wrong happen, and it's like, I don't know if I'm going to work with him again.
Yep.
Like, it's like, ooh, she.
Or I know I'm not going to work with them again.
It's like, she's not going into my next show. Those things happen, and so, like in a sense, and this is true, not even in the context of doing theater with something. If you could be doing another thing entirely, and a director is aware of your work someplace else, that's also. They're in a sense auditioning you, even if they don't realize it at the moment, right? Because then you show up for the next thing. It's like, oh, you're that person that did X, Y, or Z, right? And like that can be a little intimidating. It's like I have to be perfect all the time in order to like never get all the roles. But that's not necessarily, I guess, the takeaway. But the takeaway is understanding all the different factors, because that understanding will help you move in the right direction. Because there's really, like we're saying, it's an infinite number of things, right? Like how good you are. I'm gonna list through all the stuff that we haven't said so far on our little list. Like how good you are at cold reading, right? It's like how sure am I that you're going to show up, right? Do you have official training? Are you a very fantastic character actor? Like what's your experience level? All of those
Do you
things.
understand movement on stage?
Exactly. All of those different pieces are going into the final calculation. And if I'm great at movement, right, I'm going to highlight my movement. If I'm terrible at movement, I'm going to go ask someone to help me get better at movement. Or if I'm terrible at movement, I'm going to not really, my audition is not going to be a choreographed dance.
Yep,
Like,
I cast a show one time. A woman, her monologue was fine, her audition was fine, but in her movement, she did one of the most elegant turns on stage I had ever seen.
Yeah.
I cast her because of how she turned on stage.
yeah,
That was the thing that put her up on the scorecard.
yeah. I've had that almost the same exact experience. It was like a hair flip in the middle of like, I was doing an audition where there was sides to read where they're just basically, there's a dialogue, right? And there's a section that called for someone to walk away and then to turn back. And there's one woman who did the thing, and when she turned her hair, she'd like made it so their whole hair flipped around, right? And I was like, just instantly captivated. It was like, I was sad that I didn't bring more lines for them to read because I needed that scene to go on. It wasn't even the play that we were doing. It was just to fit the style of the thing. And so I was like, oh man, I should have brought more. Like that was, I need.
Keep going, you guys.
Exactly. I was just really engaging. And it was just the movement. It was the way that they were able to move their hair. So it's.
So again, thinking about what is your strength?
Yeah.
Are you a good mover? Maybe even if you're not auditioning for a musical, but you're very comfortable with movement.
Yeah.
And how, you're graceful or acrobatic or whatever it is, incorporate that into your audition. It doesn't mean you have to do somersaults.
Yeah.
But just show us that you're in control of your body when you're moving around the stage and that you're making deliberate choices. Because then maybe you're auditioning for an Agatha Christie and you're supposed to have a British accent and your British accent sucks. But you move really well. So you offset the debt of not doing the accent with these incredible physical skills, right?
Yeah.
Which can still end up getting you cast. And then we get you a dialect coach to work on the accent, right? So capitalize on what you're best at.
Yeah. One thing I would note is, and this kind of goes back to the gimmicky, it's like if it really doesn't fit, the thing, it's like, why are they playing during the last poor Yorick monologue, right? Like, I'm now like, it's like, yeah, I get it, you're a dancer. Like, why? This is not what the role you're auditioning for. And what that does to me is it speaks to a lack of understanding, right? Like, oh, this actor doesn't understand. It's a comedic dramatic instinct thing, which I mentioned, that's really high on my list, right?
Yep.
If I can tell the infrastructure isn't there for understanding the scene. So it is very important to highlight your special skills, but obviously not at the expense of understanding the
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I'm talking about like using your movement, it
Yeah.
might just be in how you walk.
Yes.
It might be how you get up off of sitting on the floor.
Yeah. All right. I think we've run this one into the ground. Is
I
there
think
anything
so.
else to? Yeah.
So just, as actors, work on, I know this is kind of counterintuitive, but work on your confidence so that when you can walk into the room, you can walk into the audition confident that you are bringing the best version of yourself to the process. Every day when you show up for rehearsal, same thing. Figure out what it is that makes you unique and capitalize on that rather than thinking about this is a shortcoming that I have, right? And with some shortcomings, maybe you can get training out of it or something like that. But regardless, focus on what are your pluses. How do you raise your score in the scorecard?
Yeah.
And have confidence in that. Don't be afraid to show us that our preconceived notion of this character is wrong.
Yeah.
Or is only one of 100 ways that this character can be played.
Incomplete.
Yeah. So think about that next time you're preparing for an audition, y'all. Focus on yourself. Focus on the best version of yourself. That's my TED Talk.
Yeah. Thanks for coming to our TED Talk. This whole thing should just be it's theater TED Talks.
Right. Theater TED Talks. I think the name might be taken already.
Yeah. Perhaps.
Yeah.
Who's this TED guy? Why is he always talking?
So thanks for tuning in. Of
course.
Make sure to like and subscribe.
Yeah.
And all of that nonsense. And we'll have another new video coming out shortly.
As soon as we can.
Bye. Toodles.